Sean Scott Hicks, welcome to Locked In. Like we were just talking about, 6 months in the making.
6 months in the making, yeah.
Thanks to Jed Lipinski for connecting us. And I'm glad we finally got to do this. We're at your home in Massachusetts.
Yeah. Well,
and you're the author of The Devil to Pay.
Absolutely,
if you
man.
want to hold that up for the audience.
Devil to Pay, Mobster's Road to Perdition. Bestsellers list since its release in June.
That's
June
so
4th.
cool.
Yeah.
There were some hiccups to getting it released. But
there was some fucking hiccups to getting it released. I know I spoke to my attorney this morning. He told me not to bring it up, but it's all fair game, I guess. So before the book came out, before anybody read it, it was talked about in the media. Deadline did an exclusive article on it. A lot of newspapers picked it up. There were 5 individuals, former mobsters that all decided to become professional government witnesses. And they all got this lawyer to file a lawsuit against me and my publisher to stop the publication of the book because they didn't know what I wrote about. And I guess maybe they were worried. Who knows? Maybe they forgot to talk about a body they buried when they did their deals.
Yeah, I remember talking to you when you were going through all this.
Obviously, guys, I would never, ever, it's a government's job to catch people, not mine. I actually turned down a very lucrative deal. I'm not going to say the production company because they already threatened to sue me. But I was on location doing some work, and they came to me with a 36-month contract extension. I said, what's this for? And they're like, well, we're going to be going through HBO Max. I said, that's none of my business. Just $15,000 a day, man. Every day I'm here. And my lawyer wants $5,000 a day. They're like, yeah, that's fine. So I said, what's this 36-month shit? And they're like, well, we want you to be the host of a true crime show. I'm like, we should have talked to my agent. We should have talked to me before you told them I was in. And that's what pissed me off about the whole thing. They guaranteed them they could get me to do it. And I was like, well, what's the basis of the show? What's the theme? What's the concept here? Well, we're going to have you work with law enforcement around the country, taking a look at cold cases to see if there's something you see through a criminal's eyes that they missed. I said, so you want me to work with law enforcement to put people in prison? I said, you're out of your fucking mind, dude. And I grabbed my lawyer immediately, Kevin Salvaggio, and I'm like, how do I not breach this contract? And he said, well, we got 2 more scenes to film today. I said, all right, I'm going to film these and then we're out of here. So I filmed the last 2 scenes. The last one turned into a big argument. The producer, I'm not going to say his name, nice little Jewish guy, though, from Hollywood, was like, you're going to ruin my professional reputation. And I'm like, you should have talked to me first. I'm like, any way you go about that, I'm not working with law enforcement to fucking, if they missed it, it's on them. It's their job, not mine.
Sounds like something from 60 Days In, just in the free world.
Yeah. It's just something I wasn't interested in doing at all.
Yeah. So did you grow up in Massachusetts?
I grew up in Massachusetts, Florida, North Carolina. My mother was really promiscuous and nomadic. So she bounced from one guy to another.
No dad in the picture?
The gentleman that this book is dedicated to, Henry Simons, my mother originally worked for him. And he had a nightclub called Casa Barini's down on the South Shore in Marshfield, Mass. And she showed up to work one evening as a hostess wearing sunglasses. Like, remember, this is back in the 70s, early 70s. This would have been 1970, actually. A couple months before I was born. No, 71. I was born in September. So it was in 71. So she had the big Jackie O sunglasses on at nighttime. And my pop was like, you can't wear the sunglasses in here. And he took them off her face, and she had a broken nose and black eyes. And she was dating a gentleman, William Red Baker at the time. And I guess my pop left that night, and no one had ever seen William after that. And my father, Hank, I call him Pop, had a daughter from a previous marriage to Mary McDonald out of South Boston. And thought he couldn't have any more children. They had one daughter, my oldest sister, Deborah, who was born in 1954, so she's about 70 now. Vietnam vet, Air Force, and all that crap. So my dad said, well, you can't be in the restaurant with black eyes and a broken nose. I need a nanny, so you're going to move into my house and watch my daughter while I take care of my jobs. And they just fell in love, and then a couple months later, I was born. He brought me home from the hospital, and he's raised me, but back then, there was never like legal adoption or anything like that. So I always had my mother's last name, Hicks. And she would take off with the new guy and always take me with her and basically hold me hostage and tell my dad, well, if you wire me this amount of money, I'll put him on a plane. Back then, kids could go on planes without adult supervision. And she would send me back, or sometimes he would send her money and she would not send me back and say, well, that was not enough to cover all my bills and this and that. Send some more and I'll send them this time. That's basically how it proceeded.
Did your dad have money like that, enough to afford that?
Pop?
Yeah.
Yeah, Pop had money. Yeah.
So it was a good childhood when you were staying with him.
Yeah, Pop always made sure all the kids had everything they wanted: cars, houses. He owned a construction company and had his fingers in a lot of things.
Were you and your sister close at all?
Valentina, who I spoke to the other night, I had not talked to her in 10 years. She's been calling me. One of the reasons my wife is mad, she's like, I've been with you 4.5 years and she's never called you once. Now all of a sudden she's calling every day. I said, well, same thing with my little brother. They need something. I do have Debbie. She's in Texas. She put herself through med school with her GI Bill. She deals with quadriplegic soldiers. She has like a dude ranch type thing out there. She teaches them how to function in wheelchairs and being quadriplegics and live alone. So she's pretty set there, but she's coming to the end of her career. Like I said, she's 70. Then there's Valentina. She's in the medical field now, but she's former military. She was in the Marines. And then she got married. She got married to somebody that works at the Pentagon, Brent. I don't know. He's some high up at the Pentagon. So he's in Washington all the time. And then she decided to become law enforcement up in New Hampshire. Actually showed up to my marriage, I think my first marriage to Juanita back in the 90s, and freaking in uniform. I'm like, you just showed up to you're a cop. What are you doing? And everybody's staring. And then we got into a big fight at the reception afterwards. And then I didn't hear from her for years. And then there was a situation with her daughter, my niece, about 10 years ago. She worked at some gas station or something. Somehow, teenage shit. The manager had gotten inappropriate photos of my niece and was threatening to put them online. And that was the last time I saw her. Myself and an associate went up and talked to the manager, got his phone, and took care of that.
Where did you spend the most of your time? I know you said you hopped around a lot.
Dorchester, North Quincy, right over the bridge. Yeah.
What was that like growing up there?
Just different. Everything was different. A lot of crime, a lot of stolen cars, a lot of larceny, a lot of violence. Yeah.
What kind of kid were you? How would people describe you?
So I only had originally I had a 4th grade education because my mom moved me around so much. So formal education only went to the 4th grade. I finished my education through the DOC. So I guess I was just a violent kid. Yeah, I was very, very violent. A lot of fighting, a lot of assaults. It's the way I took out my anger.
Where do you think that violence came from, like the anger? What
my
was
mom.
That from?
No, just watching my mom's lifestyle. Seeing, it wasn't unheard of for her to take me to clubs that she would frequent, because no babysitter. And if you left me home alone, I got into all kinds of shit. I was robbing the neighbors' houses. I remember she had to pick me up one time from a police department. I couldn't have been more than 9 or 10. We lived in North Carolina at the time. She was dating a gentleman, Eugene Roberts, who was part of the Hells Angels down there. And this particular gun store had it must have been an old package store or something. I don't know, because they had this little fucking door on the side of the basement wall, the foundation, that had a chute that went down. They used to send booze down. So they jimmied that thing open and shot me down this fucking little fucking conveyor belt type ramp. And I proceeded to just grabbing guns and ammunition and just passing them up. And then it must have been a silent alarm or something. So they took off. And I managed to crawl up that fucking ramp because it had the spindle things that just kept spinning. I was going up and down. It's probably comical, but when you're a scared kid and your adrenaline's gone. Because the cops were at the front door. I could hear them pounding on the front door, and I was on the side of the building. So I got out and I ran, but I got caught. And they're like, who were you with? I'm like, I don't know. But they ended up calling my mom. They were like, where's your mom? I said, I think she's at a place called The Shop. They're like, The Shop. I said, I don't know. There's a half a race car hanging on the wall. And they're like, we know it. It was just a biker club. So they called her. She had to come pick me up. I got a good ass beating that night.
Was that the first time you ever got arrested?
Yeah. I think I was like 9 or 10 years old. Yeah.
When was the first time you ever committed an act of violence as a kid?
Not long after that. There was a kid in the neighborhood that had just got it wasn't a red line. I'd have been like a Diamondback BMX type bike, and I wanted it. So I just beat him up, took it.
And there was no one there to show you that that wasn't okay?
No.
Do you think if there was someone to do that, then your life would have taken a different turn?
I would like to think so, but I don't know though. I was just always into everything. Even before that, like 8, 9 years old, I remember used to be a TV show called, it was Lee Majors or something, The Fall Guy. I convinced fucking this kid, Patrick Murphy. I'm like, we were in like a 3-story house. I convinced him. We took a beanbag and we put it out on the side of the yard. And I gave him a fucking like black trash bag. And I'm like, just jump off the roof. You'll fucking glide right down, aim for the beanbag. It's like a parachute. Fucking kid shattered both his fucking legs.
Wow.
So I was always into stuff, man.
Hey all, it's your host of Locked In, and I have a serious question for you. Are you throwing money away without even realizing it? You ever feel like your bank account is doing time without parole? Because that's exactly how I felt when I saw how many subscriptions I was still paying for, but not even using. Yes, we've all been there before. It was like my money was locked up, literally, and I had no way to break it free. That's when I found Rocket Money. And let me tell you, this app is the ultimate financial get-out-of-jail-free card. I checked my Rocket Money dashboard and realized I was paying for multiple streaming services I hadn't watched in months. Literally just burning money every single month. And don't even get me started on that random subscription I forgot about from 2 years ago. But with Rocket Money, I saw everything in one place, and with just a tap, they canceled the ones I didn't need anymore. Rocket Money doesn't just cancel unwanted subscriptions, it also monitors your spending, alerts you when bills go up, and even negotiates lower bills for you so you could keep more cash in your pocket. Over 5 million people have already used Rocket Money to save a total of $500 million. Some are saving up to $740 a year. Imagine all the things you could do with that extra cash instead of letting it disappear into subscription limbo. Break free from wasted spending today. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedin to start saving now. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedin. Don't let your money do time. Rocket Money's got your back. Now let's get back into today's episode.
So what happens next? Walk us through kind of like your teenage years.
Teenage years. 15, started working for Joe Simpson, Toby Rust, boosting new cars, and they would just crush them over at Ace Auto over in the South End and ship them up to Canada for scrap weight. But they had a junkyard there. There was actually 2 junkyards. One was in Quincy. Now it's called the Falls. It's a condominium complex. But they would strip off all the wheels, starters, the alternators, the radios, Cadillacs and stuff. They would take the leather seats out, and they would use that to stock the junkyard. And then once it was just bones, they'd crush it. Sometimes they would take motors out, but they didn't like to really mess around that much. Too many numbers on motors.
And who are those guys to you?
That was just Uncle Joe, Uncle Toby. Everybody was an uncle, Irish uncles.
And were they working with like a mob or an organization or anything?
Allegedly. No.
Did you think that was cool at the time?
I did. Because I saw the way people treated them. Joe was very large, about Mark's size. 6'3", 6'4", 300 pounds, very bombastic. And he used to sit in a trailer out front and behind his desk and drink God, what was Joe? Crown Royal, and Toby was Canadian Mist, and just sit there and drink all day, driving the big battleship fucking size Lincoln Town cars when they were square and fucking 25 feet long. You know, fucking bracelets and gold chains and fucking pinky rings. And it's cool when you're a kid. You just saw the respect they got. But then I learned later on, there wasn't respect that I myself at that point, I used to think, oh, everybody respects me. No, they were afraid. You know, I was unpredictable, loose cannon.
Did you have a lot of friends that were into similar things? Or were you kind of like the odd duck out of the group?
Everybody I ran with in my crew, yeah, we were all cut from the same cloth. None of my guys ever, unfortunately, a couple of them are dead now, but no one ever turned rat. But we did our own thing. It wasn't like we had to report to anybody or answer to anybody. It's like if we got a lead from somebody, we would act on it and give them their cut.
Now, when you say crew, you were doing all this as a teenager?
As a teenager, yeah.
As a teenager running your own crew?
Yeah, we were clipping like 20 cars a day.
And what would the profit be on a car?
I used to get it between $200 and $400 depending on what the car was. Cadillacs, I got 400. Lincolns, I got 400. Toyotas and stuff like that. They would just give me a list of what they were looking for. Like, what did the junkyard need on the shelves? And that's what I just kind of like a shopping list.
And are you guys hot wiring it, or how do you get that?
No. So back then, the dealerships used to have black lock boxes on the window of the car that had the keys in it. They never kept the keys inside. So we used to just fucking go there, shatter the window, take a 5-pound sledgehammer, bust the fucking box open, and we'd have a set of keys.
Did you guys call yourselves anything?
No. Oh, lucky because we got one high-speed chase, but we ended up, I think, flipping that car, and we got out and ran through the woods.
And how many of you were there?
6.
6. And would all 6 hit a car at the same time, or are you guys
No,
splitting up?
we'd break it up into different dealerships.
Okay.
You know.
And how long did this last for?
I went on for about a year. Good year.
And do you get caught for this?
No, I never got caught for that.
Wow.
Well, it was great.
So that's like your first, taste.
Yeah, because we would go out of
crime.
state. You never shit in your own backyard.
Yeah.
You know.
And by this point, you're done with high school.
I never made it to middle school.
Oh, you never even made it to
I
middle
made
school.
it to
fourth grade. You
3
said.
weeks into the 4th grade. I guess that would be my first act of violence. I hit a kid with a folding chair at an assembly because he was sitting in front of me. And it had nothing to do with race, but it happened to be a black kid. And he just like kind of leaned up and he fucking ripped a fucking vicious fart. And I was like, did you just fucking fart on me, dude? And he was like, huh. So I just grabbed the chair and was like, fucking started crowning him.
And they expelled you.
Yeah, I got expelled.
And you never got a chance to go back into school.
No.
Wow.
No.
So you make it through 15, 16, 17. You do the car ring for that year. Then what happens?
Then I started doing a little collection. Probably around 16 and a half, 17.
And what does that mean, collect?
Collecting money.
For who?
Yeah, just go grab envelopes and stuff like that. And then intermittently, I would go out to Holbrook. My dad would have to go see Toby Rust for whatever reason. Toby was one of the largest fences in New England at the time. And I used to always talk my dad into, Papa, I got to go hang at a job site all day. Let me just hang out with Uncle Toby. And Toby would be like, kid can fucking help out in the garage. Because he had this giant fucking 2-bay garage with roll-up doors built on the side of his house, just full of fucking hot shit. Everything was in there, man. From baseball gloves to fucking cases of liquor to fucking microwaves to fucking you name it.
And your pop was actually fencing stuff off to him, or?
He was helping him move it, I guess you could say. Okay. I know my little brother, who's his biological son, called and said, I don't like the way you dedicated the book to my father. I'm like, I can remember me stopping him from beating your ass with a skill saw in the middle of the street screaming at you. He chose me and got stuck with you. I'm like, fuck you, man. What do you want me to say?
So he was in kind of like the crime world too.
Yeah.
Mm. And was he affiliated to anyone? Or?
He was on the outskirts. He had never been arrested for anything. One time, I think Debbie must have been 10 or 12 after he divorced Mary. She was cheating on him with a Randolph cop. Something happened. The cop's brakes went out and got in an accident and died. And I guess they picked him up for that. And he was like, I don't know about cars. fucking build houses. What are you talking about? But that was about it.
Now, when you say you're doing collections, what does that mean?
Just picking up money.
For who?
It started out with Toby and Dave, and then somehow they were kicking up to Jim Bulger. He would always stop by and pick up an envelope. And they got to talking about something I did at a place in Rockland. There was a dispute between two motorcycle gangs or something. I don't know what the fuck happened. I know I was drunk that day. But I got into it with a guy called Mechanic Mike. And ended up there was some pool cues and pool ball involved, and then the plate glass window. And Toby, I believe, was talking about it. And Jim was like, so you like to fight? And I was like, I'll go looking for trouble, but I don't run away from it either. And it just kind of progressed from there.
Was it normal for someone your age to do collections?
No, absolutely not.
So why use you?
Because I guess I was just pretty proficient. I never took no for an answer. I mean, the only problem, I think, and I talk about it in the book, was a guy in Boston. I was a degenerate gambler, but he owned a bar. And I went there, and he said something to the effect that, what the fuck are they sending a fucking kid for? Tell him I'll fucking pay him next week. But I watched him just place a bet. So I ended up taking his car keys off the fucking bar. And he had a brand new Lincoln. I drove off in it. Took it to the fucking auto yard. And they're like, where's the money? I said, I didn't get the money, but I got his Lincoln. And he was like, never mind. Take that out back so they can, the monkey, he used to call them the yard monkeys. He said, let the yard monkey strip it down. Make sure it gets crushed. And that same gentleman ended up coming back to Toby's a few weeks later. And my pop was there. And Jim was there, Whitey. And he was screaming at my dad, you owe me fucking a brand new fucking car. Your kid took my fucking car. Everybody saw him do it. And my dad was just like, you should have paid the money. I don't know what to tell you. And Jim said, let me talk to you outside for a minute. And he went outside and don't know what was said. He came back in. He goes, Hank, you don't owe him a fucking thing. Sean, good job. So.
Now, did Whitey Bulger back then have the rep he has now? Like the celebrity status in a way? That it's like a household name?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'd say so.
And did you look up to someone like that?
Unfortunately, in the beginning, yeah, I thought it was cool.
And he was okay with having someone your age? I mean, maybe...
He did the same thing pretty much with Kevin 2 Weeks. You know, because I call him 2 weeks. I guess it's Kevin Weeks, but I call him 2 weeks because that's how long it took him sitting in a cell before he decided to flip.
That's funny.
You know, matter of fact, those are some of the individuals that filed a lawsuit against me before the book came out. Another one was John Moderano. And by the time they went through all the legal process, the judge was like, he's not defaming you. You admitted to killing 20 fucking people, for Christ's sakes, then wrote a book about it. And the same thing with everybody else that was involved. Miles Connor, one of the most prolific art thieves in history. I think he wrote The Art of the Heist, a hypothetical on the heist. But he didn't know what I wrote in the book because I know Miles. We shared the same attorney, Martin K. Leppo. As a matter of fact, they asked me to go to the book release for that book. So he didn't know what I wrote about. Jason Moderano. Who else was in there? Oh, Patrick Nee. I just threw it out there, you know. Everybody knows who you are. I just find it fucking funny because there's no super criminals. How the fuck is it you fucking have a 50-year fucking criminal fucking career and you've never been arrested for any of this shit? I said, you know, I've heard some things out there, but it's nothing that I'm making up. It's online. A lot of people question whether he's been doing the same thing Jim was doing. I don't know. None of my business. I don't do business with him.
No, all these guys were Irish mob affiliated?
Yeah.
And were they running the city you lived in at that point?
I guess they would like to think they were, I suppose.
Were they the only kind of family involved, or are there any Italians? Or?
Yeah, there's Italians, there's Albanians. The last big case I went away with for 5 years was with, happened in South Boston on Farragut Road. It's a seafood company that was a front for a heroin operation. And they ended up with a couple of people getting shot. My dumbass didn't know that the DEA and the FBI were already onto these guys, and they had already, they had an inside guy, and they had fucking cameras all through the fucking warehouse, filmed the whole fucking shootout.
And you were there.
I was there, clearly fucking, I was the one in the Michael Myers mask fucking shooting.
Oh, man.
And then my buddy Michael got shot in the arm. And the two brothers is Hi-Mac and D-Mac. I knew they're crazy. Chinese guys are crazy. They're from San Francisco. Because I managed to get hold of D-Mac. And I had him in front of me like a shield. Because I just saw Michael get shot. And this guy, his brother came out of the office just with a fucking 40 cal just spraying and praying. And I'm like, he don't give a fuck if he hits his brother or not. I was like, fuck this shit. But I got away that night. Michael, a state trooper, Greeley, that's how the whole case fell apart. They didn't want to blow the case, the feds. And I had Judge Ball, Carol Ball. We used to call her Christmas Carol because she was pro-fucking convict. And it was all confusing. She was like, why is the FBI sitting here? Why is the Secret Service here today in my courtroom? And they're part of the Treasury. A lot of people don't know that. So the DEA had gone to them to get the buy money on the last minute. Mm-hmm. And they didn't have time to record the numbers and all kinds of shit. But Judge Ball said, are you going to charge him federally? We're not prepared at this time, Your Honor. She said, then get out of my courtroom. And she said, this was like the pretrial hearing. She said, Sean, this looks like a territorial dispute. Several people got shot, yourself included, but no one died. No innocent victims. She said, why don't we just do away with this right now? You want to take 5 years today? Because no one's testifying against you. I said, I'll take 5 years. I said, on the condition that Michael gets a break because he got shot. She goes, but he just finished a 5 to 7. I said, I'll plea out right now. It will cost the state a whole lot of money and drag this out for the next couple of months if you want. And she was like, Mr. James, 18 months with the time served waiting, and I'll do it like that. And I said, and the driver, he never went in. He has no criminal record. I said, so he gets 2 years probation. And she said, you're pushing it. And I was like, I'll take the 5 right now on the chin. She said, all right, I'll give the driver probation. And Michael, you get 18 months. Sean, you get 5 years. So,
no, that was the last time you ever went to prison?
No, I had to go back for a tune-up in 2019 for a year.
I love how you call it a tune-up.
Yeah, I had to go in for a tune-up.
So you're doing collections as a teenager. What happens after that?
I was given a condominium in Louisburg Square as I think it was my 18th birthday present. And about 2 weeks later, Whitey Bulger got the unit next door to me. And I can remember my pop and some other people showing up and just fucking yelling at me and screaming at me. They're like, what the fuck? Don't you talk to him. You don't have to give him anything. And then my pop said, matter of fact, this is going on the market. You're moving. I said, where the fuck am I moving? I just got the place. I just got furniture. And he said, go see your Uncle Paul McDonald, at First American Roofing in South Boston. He said, just go to the marina in Hingham. Look for the big boat that says Tar Baby on it. I said, okay. So I went back down to the marina that day down in Hingham. Talked to Sal. I'm not going to say his last name because his family's still active. And he told me which slip to go on. And I went down. And Paul was on the boat. And he said, your dad said to give you the keys to the boat. We'll sign the title over later. He said, I guess you're going to be living on this boat for a while. It was like a 50-foot sport fisher yacht. So they moved me out of my condo over to the boat.
Did Whitey even knew you lived next to him?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
What did he say about you moving?
He said, oh, what a coincidence, kid. I said, well, we'll make great neighbors. Yeah.
You think he did that on purpose, move there?
I think so, yeah. His girlfriend lived up in Squantum area, Squantum Road. So I would like to think that he just wanted to keep an eye because it was literally a couple of 100 yards from where his mass burial ground was, underneath the Fort River Bridge. So that's where all the bodies were. And it was very close to that, like literally 2-minute walk.
But you didn't know that at the time.
No.
So what happens after that? You move on to this boat. Are you still working for him, or are you kind of a freelancer?
I was just freelance jobs. I don't care who I worked for.
How would people find you? And what are you kind of known as at the time?
The kid. Like some of the old timers used to, like strip clubs and stuff like that. They'd be like, just fucking play ball. Don't make us send the kid. Well,
And that's strictly collecting money?
yeah, I had a gimmick, sometimes it wasn't always violence. I mean, that's part of my alcoholism came from that. And just even today, just going through everything with my psychiatrist and stuff like that. I never really allowed myself to love anybody or be loved by anybody. I saw it as weakness. You could hurt me by getting at that person. And until I met my wife, Charlene, it's the first time I've ever felt like the emotion of being hurt. Because, I fell in love with her and allowed her to love me. And I didn't like that emotion. Before, it was just never there. But just things are different. But that's probably, why I turned to booze. That was my coping mechanism, my crutch. Because if I did something I didn't really particularly have my heart in, like I didn't really enjoy hurting people. Maybe in the beginning I thought it was cool to, but then as I got older, it just became very arduous. And, I would just drink afterwards. And, then when I met my wife and started writing that damn book, that's when I relapsed because so many suppressed emotions and stuff came up. And I was like, fuck, I don't like this shit. And then just fell back in a bottle.
Is that because you feel like you lack that, in childhood, having those feelings of love?
Yeah, my wife gets mad at me now. And I'll be the first to say it, guys, man. I cry. Everybody thinks I don't. I cry. And I cried when my wife came home. And I couldn't believe it. I didn't deserve it. I always had these feelings of, I guess you could relate it to like what a soldier goes through. A survivor's guilt. So many good guys that I grew up with that aren't here anymore. So many that their families don't even know where they are. They just left one day and never came home. So I just always like, why am I here? Fuck did I do to deserve this shit? So again, I've only been out 4.5 years. August 17th will make 4.5. We'll make 5 years. So about 4.5 years I've been out.
Now, were you just doing work for the Irish mob, or were
No, I worked for everybody.
Any mob?
I don't care who you were. Albanian, Lithuanian, yaks.
And they didn't care, the other groups?
No, because I don't know, man. They got this weird thing where it's like you're not supposed to touch, like with the Italians, you're not supposed to put your hands on another made man. I'm like, well, where do you think all these mob hits are generating from? I mean, it's a guy will kill you and then show up to your fucking funeral and kiss your fucking hand and tell your family how he's going to take care of them. And you put them in the box, for Christ's sakes. So it's all hypocritical shit to me.
And these other groups would use you for the same thing, just like enforcing getting...
If there was a contract, I would take it. I don't care where it was.
And what's a typical contract pay?
Getting the job done.
And it's mostly just collecting money.
Collecting money, yeah. See, I know we could talk about it. Thinking of what my fucking lawyer said this morning. Anything that's in the book, I can talk about.
Okay. Is there a story about collecting?
There's a story in there, and my boy Quinn, God rest his soul, he got killed. For a kid from the neighborhood, come from a really good family, wasn't involved in anything. I just came home from prison, and he came to see me, and he said, "There's a Colombian guy out in New York, out of the Bronx. He's a major drug dealer, cocaine." I said, "So what's that got to do with me?" He said, "He got my sister strung out on heroin. He turned her out because he's also a pimp. And she contracted HIV and now it's full-blown AIDS. Something's got to be done." I said, "Well, go do something." And he goes, "I told you," he goes, "I can get him up here. My sister can't. She's sick. He comes to visit her. I said, okay. Quinny's like, well, let's see how major he is. So like, he put a deal together, I think 6 or 8 kilos. I said, use my name. He'll bring it up. And we had a 3-decker. And the girl on the first floor, Quinny was fucking with her fucking whore, crack whore or something. And I was like, we walked into the apartment. We put her in a hotel for the weekend. Told her not to come back. And when we walked into the apartment, I looked at her and I'm like, dude, you get fucking naked in this fucking place? He's like, nope, strictly stand-up blowjob in the kitchen. I was like, I hope so, man. You just catch a fucking disease in here, dude, or something. So we shut the guy up, and Quinny was supposed to lure him into the back bedroom, and with plastic on the floor and everything. And Quinn was supposed to bring a gun. And I said, Quinny, what'd you get? Give me the gun. Because the guy was calling him, and he was just pulling up. And I'm like, you go out and you get him. Tell him, come in the back room, the money's there. And he pulls out a fucking Bulldog 44. I go, what the fuck are we going to do with that, man? I'm like, you can't get a 25 or a 22 or something? I'm like, we can't let this off in a 3-decker and wake the whole neighborhood up. And he's like, it's all I had last minute. I was like, son of a bitch. I said, go in the kitchen, get me a fucking knife then. And we had already flipped coins. We flipped a coin. Who's going to shoot him and who's going to cut him up afterwards? It's fucking, I know somebody actually said, Sean, that's the most fucking disturbing story, but I couldn't stop laughing. I'm like, the whole thing fucking looked like some fucking skit, man. It just, everything that could go wrong fucking went wrong that fucking night.
Who won?
Huh?
Who won the coin toss?
He was supposed to cut him up. I was supposed to shoot him.
So what ends up happening?
So I told him to go to the kitchen real quick. I said, before you got to go out and let this guy in, because the guy was pulling in the parking lot out back. I said, go get me a fucking butcher knife. I'll just take care of this shit. So he comes back with like a spoon that was bent and burnt from cooking crack in it and a fucking flimsy steak knife. And I was like, what the fuck? He goes, that's it, dude. It's a crackhead's apartment. I'm like, just go get him. I'll figure something out. So now I'm going through this girl's fucking bedroom, and for the love of me, I don't know why there was a croquet mallet in her closet. Because I was like trying to fucking, she had like wooden coat hangers, and I'm like, not even a wire hanger, nothing to choke this guy with. What the fuck? I'm looking for fucking shoes. I'm like looking down at my sneakers. I'm like, I want to use my own shoelace. What the fuck? She didn't have no laces, nothing. There was like hooker boots and shit. So I grabbed the croquet mallet and put it right behind the door. As soon as the guy opened the door with Scotty was behind him. As soon as he opened the door, he looked down and he saw the plastic and shit. He tried to turn around. Scotty pushed him in, and I started fighting with him. And I was hitting him. I had him by his hair. With my left hand, I was punching him in the face, sitting on top of him, and I'm screaming at Scotty. I'm like, grab that fucking hand. There was a croquet mallet. I said, hit him with that fucking mallet, man. Fucking Scotty wound up and broke my fucking left hand, hit my left hand. I'm like, motherfucker. And then he swung again, fucking mashed off half this guy's ear, and he was out. So I'm like fucking making all kinds of fucking noise. I'm like, he's out. You knocked him out. Let's just roll him up. Picked him up, threw him on the bed, rolled him up in the fucking bed cover. I said, all right. Taking his keys out of his pocket. I was like, where's the coke? He goes, it's got to be, he didn't have anything. I'm like, it's in the car. It's got to be in the car. He didn't drive fucking all the way fucking from the Bronx to here without the product. So I said, here's the keys. Go out and search the car, find the fucking drugs. And then you follow me in my car. I'll put him in the trunk of his car and we'll go finish this at the other place. He goes out and he hits the fucking fob. What's he do? Alarm. Now the fucking car, the fucking alarm's going off, and I'm standing like on the porch with this guy over my shoulder. And I'm like, fucking turn the fucking alarm off. What the fuck? So I go walking out there and dump the guy on the ground behind the car, get the alarm off. I'm like, search the fucking car, dude. He's like, there's nothing inside. And I'm like, it's in here. And I'm like, all right, hold on. We spun the tire wheel off, and there was the duffel bag underneath the spare tire, the donut. I said, there it is, grab it. 3rd floor, fucking window goes up. Fucking this lady's hanging half out her fucking window. Scott Quinn, is that you? Who's that with you, Sean? And I'm just like, motherfucker. I'm like, go back in your fucking house now. Shut your fucking window. I'm calling the fucking cops. And then I hear this like weird gurgling sound. And this guy had already fucking wormed himself out of like his little fucking blanket cocoon. And he's on his knees swaying back and forth. Don't kill me, Poppy. Please don't kill me. And then like we saw all the fucking sirens and shit fucking coming down the fucking sides of the houses and heard them. And I was like, fuck, dude. I'm like, grab the fucking bag. Fuck this guy. We're out of here. So we start running. We're jumping fences. Quinn was like, we can go to Biggie's house. 2 more yards over. So we go to Biggie's house. Pounding on the back door. It's glass panes and shit. He looks out now. I had on like a white Nike tracksuit. It was covered with blood. Scott's got blood all over him. Biggie looks out and he sees us. He goes, oh, hell no, man. I'm like, here, take this bag. He's like, oh, hell no, man. Get away from me. Because now the whole neighborhood's lit up. Fucking blue lights, fucking all over the fucking place. And you can see him fucking putting the roadblocks at both ends of the street. And I'm like, son of a bitch, dude. So I'm like, wait, doesn't the Lees live around here? And they're like, yeah, the mom's over there. I said, well, this is why we did all this. Let's go to her house. So I'm pounding on the fucking front door, and I could hear dogs barking, canines and shit. I'm pounding on the front door. Scotty goes around the back. She's got a home alarm system. He walked in the back door. That goes off. So we get in, and I just start getting naked. And I told Sean's mother, I'm like, went over and I grabbed the thermostat and I cranked it. And I heard the furnace kick on. It's an older house, you know, like a 2-family, typical fucking New England. I told Scotty, let him in the back door. She turned the alarm off. And I'm like, get naked, dude. I'm like, your son, does he have any clothes left here? I know he didn't live there anymore. She goes, probably. I said, get us some clothes real quick. T-shirts, socks, fucking jeans. Well, Scotty was tall. He was like 6'5". Her son was my height. So he comes out with fucking jeans on halfway up his calves, looking like fucking high waters, like he's waiting for a flood. So I'm like, do you got cards or anything like that? And she's like, yeah. So we're sitting at the dining room table. I'm like, we have been here all fucking night playing cards. She had some beers. We put beers all over the table. And I'm like, they're going to come, because I could hear them all around the outside of the house. And then all of a sudden, boom, boom, boom. We know they're in there. The dogs tracked them. And she's like, what do I do? And they're like, open the door, we're kicking it in. I'm like, fuck. Just go tell them I'm your daughter's boyfriend and we've been playing cards all fucking night. That didn't go over well. They took us to the hospital. The guy was going into surgery. And they stood us next to his fucking gurney as they're wheeling him into surgery. And they're like, is this the guys? He's like, see. I'm like, motherfucker, so that was it.
Was it the first time you got arrested? Like officially?
No. First time was officially.
Yeah, like a real prison sentence.
17.
What did you do for that?
Almost killed somebody. Yeah.
What happened?
It's a bar, South Shore, over a debt. Yeah.
That you were collecting for someone else?
Collecting for someone else.
Not that someone that owed you?
No, they didn't owe me.
You never did your own type of operation?
I did, but I never got charged with it.
So like a book or anything back in the day?
Occasionally I would take bets from just certain people. I wasn't a bookie by any means. No. Someone was putting $5 grand, $10 grand on a game. I would take that. Now,
when someone like Googles your name and searches you, the other gangs you worked for don't really come up. It's more or less just the Irish mob.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's more, I'm trying to think of what, I was in LA at Morgan Creek Films because they're actually doing the reality show for me, The Fixer. We're just waiting to get these other two out of the picture. They said it's more sexier. The Irish mob is more sexier than the Italians. I don't know. I guess that's Hollywood shit.
Do you feel like you just did more work for the Irish mob than anyone else?
No, not really.
It was all pretty equal?
It was pretty much across the board. I didn't care where, man. I've been out to Ohio. I've been out to California. If there's a check, I'm going.
And you never, I guess, whatever, that it's not like necessarily made man, but you weren't like affiliated to just one where you were like sworn in or anything like that?
No, it's, even when I wrote the book, I was like, this isn't a Winter Hill book. This isn't an Irish mob book. This is just my life story, guys. However you want to perceive it is up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you're like a freelancer
Yeah.
type enforcer person for all these different
That's where they
individuals.
came up with the name Ghost. She never saw me coming.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
So-
crazy. But it's nothing to be, there's no badge of honor now that I'm like 53 now.
Yeah.
I'm just like, wow, man. I caused a lot of damage on this earth.
How much time did you get in prison when you were 17 for that attempted murder?
I think 2 years, a year and a half, maybe 2 years.
That's it?
That was it. Yeah.
Like,
I have a good friend of mine who's actually doing natural lives back to back. David R. Clark. They call him the Plug Ugly. He's an Irish guy. And he was freelance for everybody. He was actually, they caught him disposing of a body, the guy that got beaten to death. But they didn't have a murder weapon or a place where he was murdered. They just found the corpse in the back of his van. So they gave him 10 years for illegal disposal of a corpse. He was behind the wall for 2 years, then got transferred over to Shirley Farm. And on his 6th year, I forgot who the governor was back then. It might have been Bill Weld or something. For 10 grand, he bought a parole after 6 years. So he got released, moved down Cape Cod, and legend has it, or law enforcement alleges, that he took a contract to kill 2 guys that night for the Italians, Romano Jr. and I think Richie Devlin got shot in the face that night. Anyways, whatever happened with Romano Jr., they were in a bar or nightclub or something. Someone cut their tire, and he came out to look at his flat tire and bent over and got popped. Dave was on his way back home that night. If he did that, I don't know if he did that. The life sentence came from him having a taillight out. And a state trooper, Mark Charbonnier, pulled him over. So I imagine if you just clip 2 guys and you're getting pulled over by a statey and you're already on parole for disposing of a body, he just got out and started shooting. He got shot a couple times, once in the head, in the arm, chest. I think he got shot 3 or 4 times by Trooper Charbonnier, but he ended up killing the trooper that night and got a natural life for that. They just could, I mean, at that point, it was a waste of time and money to try and stick him with the other 2 murders. He's already doing a natural life. So,
what was that first prison experience like for you?
It wasn't bad. No, it wasn't bad. A lot of old timers were in there. I don't know. How old are you?
29.
Oh, Jesus.
You got almost 30 years on me, man.
You don't remember the Pub 99 massacre in Charlestown, do you?
No. What is that?
So, great guys. I'm going to tell everybody, stand-up guys, because I know they're not rats. Damien and Anthony Clemente, father and son. Certain individuals from an Italian organization and family were trying to pressure Damien, who was, making a few moves. And his father stepped in, invited them all to lunch at the Pub 99 to work things out. One of the individuals always wore a fanny pack, and everybody knew he carried a gun in that fanny pack. He reached for it at the table, middle of fucking lunch hour, and Anthony, the old man, fucking murdered all of them. And him and his son ended up getting multiple life sentences for that.
Wow.
But Anthony got jumped up at Susan Baranowski up at the Supermax, and got messed up pretty bad, and he had to have a surgery, and they transferred him down to Old Colony Correctional Center out in Bridgewater. And the guards came to me, and they were like, and I'd already done time with Anthony and his son Damien up at Norfolk. And they said, Anthony Clemente's coming in today. He's got about 40 staples in his stomach, and he feels vulnerable after what just happened. I said, okay. And I always had a single cell status, STG, security threat group. And they're like, he requested to convalesce in your cell so he feels protected. And I'm like, you want to put the old man in my cell? And I said, all right, so I got to get him bottom bunk. I said, yeah, that's absolutely. Anthony can come and heal up here. And they're like, you sure? I said, yeah, absolutely. Nothing but respect for the guy. So he came in my cell, and it was great because we had our hot pots that we fucking, you know how you fucking Jimmy the fucking thermostat on the bottom with the paper clip. So he was fucking always cooking, always fresh vegetables, fucking peppers and onions coming from the kitchen, and always that fucking goddamn fucking pot, always with sauce in it. But yeah, we used to walk the yard. Dennis Day was there, another good Irish fucking mobster. And then I was sitting at the table with the guys, and Dennis came over to say something, say hello, something. Older guy. And he came over and said, hey, Sean, man, if you need anything. And one of the other guys that was there said, get the fuck away from the fucking table, you faggot. And I'm like, wait a minute, he's a good guy, man. What the fuck? And he goes, nope, since he caught that life sentence, all he's doing, he's in the fucking gym under the bleachers fucking sucking off and getting sucked off. I was like, get out of here, he's gay. They're like, that's a $3 bill. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if that's your thing, I don't hold anything against anybody. But just see a guy that you know was a leg breaker, like, it's crazy.
How did you gain that much, respect in prison at such a young age? If the guards were talking to you like that and you had that rapport with them?
Violence. It wasn't. I never went out of my way looking for a situation because you already know in prison. I mean, you've been there. So if you beat me up, I'm coming back to stab you. If I beat you up, you're coming back to stab me. So in my mind, it was always like, fuck the foreplay. Let's just get the fucking. I'm just going to stick a piece of steel in you and be done with it. But it had to be something serious for that to happen. Because, again, you might be settling a dispute with somebody, but you're still locking the whole joint down. You're taking visits from people, canteen from people. You got to take all that into consideration. Now, if you did it for a justified reason, everybody kind of rolled with the punches. Because if they did the same thing, I'd roll with the punches. But I guess, so when I did my bank robbery, I used an older gentleman had done a 7 to 10 for a bank. And he did, I can say his name, Billy Smith. He's deceased now. So he did an 18 to 30 for an armored car. And he got out in his 60s. And we had a bank job that came up on the South Shore. And I said, I'll take that. It was an inside job.
How old are you?
I was in my 20s.
So this is after that first prison sentence in between?
Yeah. Well, I think I've had 9 convictions. Fairly certain. Well, that's at least what Dan Abrams' team came up with. My last one was my 9th conviction. Okay. So I said, I'll use the old man as a driver. And he said, hey, he paid his dues. He just did an 18 to 30. He's in his 60s. Just let him drive you. It's a piece of cake, Armored car came in, dropped off the bags. Bank manager was in debt, degenerate gambler. I had a 2-minute window where he left the money on the cart outside of the fucking gate. So it was just in and out, over the counter, grab the bags and screw. That all went perfect. Got back to the car, fucking threw the bags in the back seat, jumped in the back seat, fucking pulling my fucking clothes off, changing and shit. This idiot used his own car with his own plates and parked it behind a supermarket at the loading dock and got caught on film. I went directly to Revere Beach to a hotel, paid him his cut, and then my lawyer came by, picked up money. I kept $9,999 and he drove me to Logan Airport. Flew to Puerto Rico.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, to get a job like that, back then there's no cell phones. Is it like are you getting a note or how does that, a pager?
No, we did have cell phones back then. I remember my cell phone. It was a Motorola that looked like an army walkie-talkie. It like stood up and it weighed about 5 pounds and had this fucking big black thick antenna on it and lasted like 4 hours. And your phone bill was like $2,000 a month back then. But we had SkyTel pagers. You remember those?
I've seen like old pagers.
Yeah, the old SkyTels.
I used to play with my dad's pager when I was a kid.
So we
So people just knew that you were the guy and they would hit you up and then you would accept or deny.
Yeah. Or they would go through the lawyer. We all shared the same lawyers. Depending on what the job was, we would just meet at the lawyer's office and talk because we knew that place wasn't bugged.
Do you take any job or are there jobs you turn down?
I've turned a lot down. I can remember a job. I got a call one morning and before I was married, guys. And I was, I don't know, a couple of the strippers. There was like 2 or 3 strippers. I was in bed. And the phone kept ringing and ringing. And I finally, back when they had landlines, guys. So I answered the phone. And they're like, hey, you want in on this? And I was like, what's my cut? And they were like, between $125,000 and $175,000 in and out. And I said, man, I'm not getting out of bed for less than $250. So Yeah, I've turned a few down.
So you go to Puerto Rico.
I went to Puerto Rico. Billy gets picked up because he used his license plate. But we had been, the day before, he and I had gone striper fishing on Revere Beach up by High Pines. Headed out like to the Lynn Causeway and all that. And Kodak used to have like these disposable cameras that came in a cardboard box. And Billy, before selfies, man, he was snapping pictures of me and him with these fish we caught, these 2 fucking striped bass, and threw the fucking camera in his trunk. So when they arrested him, inventory his vehicle, they developed the fucking camera. They were like, took it back to the bank and they go, does this look like the guy that robbed you? And one of the tellers ID'd me. So I knew they had a warrant for me. So I was like, and it was, who the fuck was the agent, special agent in charge back then of the bank robbery task force? Forrest Shoeing. He's retired now. Yeah, I would actually call him. He would be like, you're making it hard on yourself. I said, when I'm done spending the money, I'll be back. And then my lawyer worked it all out. I got arrested right as soon as I got off the plane. State police were waiting for me. I was in Carolina, down in Puerto Rico. Met a nice girl down there too. She wanted to come back with me. I'm like, it's not that kind of party. I said, I'm getting arrested and going to prison as soon as I get back.
And this was a Fed case?
They did not pick it up. They went at the state level. They were building, and that was Forrest's fault. Because when I was 52A'd back upstate waiting trial, he came up to see me and he dropped a file on the fucking, like the stack of files. And he's like, I got 14 banks and 3 armored cars across this country that have your name on them. I'm like, I didn't do those. I said, you got me for this one. You got me. I turned myself in. So they took me for an arraignment in front of Judge Moriarty in Norfolk Superior Court. And my lawyer was like, I'm like, I thought the feds were picking this up. He said, they're trying to fucking stick you with all kinds of other shit. Let's get this out of the way first. And I said, all right. So we go in, and the DA was yelling all kinds of shit, asking for a 9 to 15 if the feds didn't pick it up. And I don't know what the fuck he was talking about. I'm looking at my lawyer like, that don't sound all set to me. And he said, he talked to the judge, Judge Moriarty. He said, I think my client would like to settle this today, Your Honor. And he goes, well, it's the arraignment. It's not how we generally do stuff. We'll just pick a pretrial date. I'll determine a bail. He goes, you got him. He's guilty. He's going to confess to it right now. He said, but there's some conditions. William Smith didn't know anything about the job. My client asked him for a ride to the bank to cash a check. And he goes, well, he didn't notice him throwing big brown money bags and diving in the back seat. He goes, he did, but at that time, you got to understand, he's an elderly man, and my client's willing to say he threatened him and told him just fucking drive. Because they were holding him on like a no bail. And so they did sidebar and shit like that. And I see the body language, and the prosecutor was all fucking bent out of shape. And we go back and the judge says, I'm going to entertain this if I'll allow you to plea out at your arraignment today, Mr. Hicks. I said, okay, that's fine. I said, but Mr. Smith goes free, right? Because he didn't know anything about it, and I did threaten him. He's an old guy. I said, I'll plea out today. And he said, well, they don't make them like you anymore. He said, come from good stock. He said, unfortunately, I cannot give you less than 2.5 years on this. This is a direct indictment. He said, which will follow, because it's going to go to the grand jury. You'll go back on a 52A status, but your plea agreement will go in. He said, and the rest will follow. Well, I don't know what the fuck he was talking about. He said, I can't give you less than 2.5 years in state prison. But you turned yourself in and you're taking accountability. So I will not give you more than 2.5 years. Fucking DA through the file. He goes, you can't fucking do this. You can't do this. And I'll never forget it. He goes, as long as I'm wearing this black robe, I can do whatever the hell I want to do. And that was it. I was the last case he ever heard. At the end of the day, his last criminal case. And then he retired.
Then like the next day?
That day. I was the last case he ever heard.
He retired that day?
Yeah, that was it. And then my lawyer came back to lockup and he goes, I told you don't fucking worry about it. I play golf with the guy.
Where do you think you got that mentality of always taking the blame for others? Because you do that later on, the story you told us earlier. You've probably done it in your childhood and throughout your life. Where does that come from? Because someone had to have taught you that, right?
Pop did. He said, he used to always drill it into my head. Anything done for the right reason is never wrong. And if you do something, carry your own fucking weight. So he used to tell me, he goes, if you get caught, you knew what you were doing getting into it. Don't play the victim. Stand up. Take it on the chin. So that's right.
And you carried that with you.
Well,
probably still
to this day, man. To this day.
So you get the 2.5 for the robbery.
Yeah, I got the 2.5 for the
state
bank.
prison again.
Yeah.
And this is now your second long sentence.
Yeah.
What's that like for you?
It was fine, man. Did you make it around transfers from joint to joint?
Yeah, I was in detention
All right,
centers.
so you already know inmates are the ones doing everything in booking. Okay, your property, a lot of people, it's like the thing with Jim Bulger, total setup. He got whacked by the government because he was going to run his mouth.
Like how he got killed.
Yeah, you don't get transferred on a paperwork mix-up, especially in a federal joint, overnight. It doesn't work like that.
Well, they had an inside guy. That's what I think happened.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it wasn't the direct government that wanted him killed.
I think, and this is my theory, he had one ace card left, and it was the Isabella Gardner Museum heist. That's why I wrote just one chapter on my theory of how it worked, why it's never going to be solved. He was going to talk about it, and I break it down in the book. Right after the robbery, the FBI took jurisdiction. They didn't have any right to take jurisdiction because they were still taking crime scene photographs when they took over the case. They had to have proof that any of the stolen goods crossed the state lines, and they didn't. They were there within a matter of hours. They were still taking crime scene photos when they showed up, kicked the Stadies into Boston off. And then from there, they proceeded to fucking interview the security guards, and then for 25 years lose all the physical evidence, including the surveillance tapes. They lost the handcuffs, the duct tape, everything for 25 years. They knew that Jim was involved. They also knew that the FBI covered it up. And, I just kind of put my theory out there.
I mean, the fact that it just strange the timing of everything, though, that it was so long before he actually, they must have protected him all these years. He was in prison a long time.
He was down in
but they moved him to a medical center,
North Carolina.
And the medical center, Butner, maybe,
yeah, it was
is
Butner.
where he got whacked at, right?
No, he got whacked in Murder Mountain in Virginia.
That's what
Hazleton.
But was that a medical center too?
No.
Okay.
That's the worst fucking.
So they transferred him from a medical center
to a supermax with the highest fucking prison inmate fatality rate. They call it Murder Mountain.
Meanwhile, you got all these ex-mobsters that have 10 bodies on them that are out doing podcasts.
From New England. Put him in the general population in a wheelchair. Lasted 12 hours. As soon as his cell cracked, he was dead.
Yeah.
Because he was gonna talk about the Isabella and how the FBI covered for him on it. Now you got to understand, the Isabella was a privately owned museum. Now during the course of Jim's trials, it cost the federal government hundreds of millions of dollars in wrongful death suits for his victims' families. Now, if the FBI, in my theory, was complacent for covering up the heist, because nothing happened in Boston. I mean, I don't care if you were brown, white, black, or yellow, Asian, it doesn't matter. You weren't selling a fucking gram of fucking coke if Jim wasn't getting his cut in Roxbury for credit. He didn't give a fuck. So you're not going to pull off what in today's inflation rates, it was a $500 million heist. Now it's $1 billion heist. You're not pulling that off in his backyard without him being in and getting his piece and knowing what's going on. It's just not going to happen. So his last ditch is he was going to give up, everything he knew about it if Catherine didn't go to prison. But they sent her anyways for aiding and abetting for, I think, 7 years or something.
And who's Catherine?
His girlfriend that he was on the run with for 16 years. Catherine Grieg. So I know he was getting ready to do like a 60 minutes thing about the museum. And that's when he got transferred.
From prison. That's what he was going to do.
Yeah.
Oh.
He was going to spill the beans. But what that would have done was open the FBI up because The museum was uninsured and privately, still privately owned, but it had no insurance back then. So they would open the door for them to be able to sue the federal government, i.e. the FBI, for fucking up the case so it didn't get solved. And it would put them on the hook for $1 billion.
I mean, I think it's very easy for like the feds to do a transfer like that and make it, because it's all computerized. They can easily make it look like it was a mistake or it wasn't meant to be.
They're going to cover their tracks.
Yeah, it's very well covered because a lot of it is computers and designation and this and that on the federal level.
I mean, even in the Department of Corrections, I know if I put in for a transfer, it's just the way the point-based system, the PBS system works here. Like, I was up at Susan Baranowski, which is the level 6 Supermax. I got granted parole. But the DOC wouldn't fucking downgrade me, and I couldn't get released. You can't get released on parole from the max. You have to step down. You have to go to a medium and then a minimum. They wouldn't downgrade me. So I sat with a fucking active parole for a year, and then Governor Baker came in and took over a wing at Pondville, which was the pre-release center outside the walls of Walpole, right behind Walpole. And one of his aides came up and she's like, listen, we got a program. It's for rehabilitation of violent criminals. They're going to downgrade you to Shirley Medium. You'll be over there for 60 to 90 days. You'll go through another class board. Then they will send you over to the minimum. And then you'll get over to TCC, the Pondville Center. But even then, that took 6 months. And then I had to go there and complete I don't know what it was, 180 days, like this intense fucking 6 hours of fucking all these classes every fucking day. And I finally graduated that. And then I noticed like this fucking van and everybody getting on this van every day. I'm like, where the fuck are these guys going every fucking morning? They're like, oh, they have jobs. Some of them work at John Deere. Some of them work up at the car dealership, the Ford dealership. And I'm like, one across from the stadium? They're like, yeah. I said, oh, wait a second. I know who runs that place. So I asked one of the guys that worked they used to call the guys, all the mechanics and stuff, the chain gang, tire monkeys and all that. I said, here, ask Dennis for his cell number so I can call him. And I'm not going to say his last name because he still works there. But I called him that night from the caseworker's office. And I'm like, I need a job. And he was like, oh, Sean, I'm kind of full. I said, I need a fucking job, Dennis, so I can get out of here every day. Because now I have to do this fucking cool-off period for the next couple of months. I'm not just going to sit here. I'm done with the classes. I said, I just want a job. I need to go out of here every morning, 6 days a week at 7 a.m. and come back at 6:37 at night. So a couple days went by, and one of the guys brought an application back, and he said, Dennis said, fill this out. I'll bring it back to him tomorrow morning. I did. Fucking guard came to my fucking room because there's a pre-release center. Knocked on my door. He's like, you better get dressed if you want to make this fucking bus ride. I said, where the fuck am I going? And he said, going over to fucking the Ford dealership. You got a job. I was like, fuck yeah. So I went there, and Dennis was like, listen, I had to create a job for you. I said, what am I doing all day? He said, well, for one, we got to get you uniforms. So Otis, I think it was Otis or somebody like that, came by and took my sizes and got me a uniform. I wore one of the other guys, Fat Eddie's, which is funny because he had like a 40-inch waist. So I'm like fucking makeshift fucking belt, shit with fucking zip ties through the fucking belt loops. And he gave me a clipboard. I said, what do I do with this? He said, you go out back, you walk by everybody's bay, jot something down, let them know your quality control and efficiency. And I was like, what am I jotting down? He goes, I don't give a fuck what you write on it. Just write something on it so they think you're fucking watching them. And I did that for about 3 or 4 months, man. I was doing good. I was making like $1,200-1,400 a week. Wasn't bad.
Wait, that's great money.
That was great money.
Especially back then.
Yeah, I think I walked out with like almost $20,000 in a check.
How old are you?
This was 2016, so 44, 45, something like that. Huh.
It's a pretty good gig.
Yeah.
So after that bank robbery prison sentence, where do you go to? Are you back to your, normal
right, so
stomping grounds?
The way it worked with me is I always knew as soon as I got out. It was just a matter of time. I think the longest period I was ever out of being incarcerated was 11 months. Aside from that, when I met my wife, this 4.5 years is like a fucking just Guinness Book shit. 11 months usually before I was back in. Yeah.
And it was all for similar things.
All similar things, yeah.
Bank robbers were your top one?
One bank. I got convicted of it. Yeah.
What would you say is your go-to that you would, out of all your charges, that you ended up in prison for?
A bunch of conspiracies. A lot of construction stuff. Like I remember we were doing, I think it was Sharon. Somehow, my pop won the bid on replacing the fucking granite steps at the town hall. And we're supposed to remove the steps, regrade it, reset them because they were all like fucking out of whack. So we were over there working. I don't know, the guy running the fucking backhoe, man, he fucking probably drunker than I was. He ended up breaking a couple of these fucking giant granite steps. I'm just like, oh well. So we put in another bill for like, I don't know, $190,000 over the bid. And I was like, the fucking thing's fucking broke. They're fragile. We got to get new ones. You have to go to a quarry up in Maine to get these. They didn't like that too much. So I got a conspiracy fucking conviction on that one. Because I was just like, fuck it then. Keep going through the back doors. Your town hall, not mine. I don't live here. I just walked off. So I ended up getting indicted for that.
They charged you for that?
Yeah, construction fraud.
Construction fraud. Yeah. Why? Because who got defrauded? The insurance companies or
the town?
Oh, the town got defrauded. Because
I think the original contract was like just shy of $300,000, and I tried to fucking hit him with another $200,000.
Wow.
So, yeah, and I walked off the job.
Did you ever get a Fed case?
No.
It was always state.
Always state, yeah.
Even with all your affiliations and
it's well, you know as well as I do. It takes 60 months for the feds to build a case against you.
You're never out for 60 months.
I was never out for 60 months. I mean, plenty of my police reports and stuff, there's always a Fed, whether it's DOJ or FBI, but it's just never out long enough for them to. And thankfully, I mean, no one's ever snitched on me. So I guess I'm fortunate there.
What was your, thoughts on seeing some of these leaders of the organizations you work for getting arrested and popped and, sent to prison all around you? Because I'm sure you've seen a lot of guys go to prison.
The geriatric gangsters from Boston, a bunch of fucking rat bastards. No respect for them. Because when you're young, you look up to these guys like they're gods or something. And you find out they're just fucking human. And the worst kind of human. They testified. You're never going to see me on a fucking stand. It's like, even when my wife she's got to go to court for beating this girl up in the fucking foyer. And the DA called me the other day, and I said, you've already spoke to my attorneys. So she goes, well, we're subpoenaing you. I said, okay, if that's the route you want to go. I said, I know you guys have already been advised I'm invoking my marital right. I don't know. So you want me to get on the stand and raise my hand and say I'm invoking my marital right? Fine. And I said, and then I'm walking off the stand. She's like, well, and I said, no, it's not working like that. I said, one, you allowed my wife to turn herself in 3 days after it. I didn't see anything. My house guest didn't see anything. The girl might have fell down the fucking stairs for all I fucking know. That's what my wife said, so I believe her. My wife's not a violent person. What the fuck do you want me to say? I said, well, we could do this. I said, no. You allowed her to turn herself in. You released her on a personal recognizance. So she's not looking at any kind of jail time. She's looking at probation, worst case scenario. If in fact she did anything. I don't think she did. I said, the girl had socks on. She was coming down my fucking hardwood stairs. They're slippery. I said, I've slipped and busted my ass on those stairs a couple of times. I said, what do you want me to say? I said, but I'm invoking my marital right. She hung up on me, district attorney. It's my wife.
They must get a kick out of you.
It's funny. I walked in. I have a neighbor over here. I don't know when you're pulling in. You see that little red cape house down there at the beginning of the driveway?
Near the basketball court a little bit?
Yeah, there's a house. There's a 2,000-foot cape in there. It's buried in the woods. That came with this. And when I first moved in, the neighbor was like, "Oh, I've been trying to buy that house for 15 years, man. Maybe we could come to some kind of agreement on it." I'm like, "Not for sale." He said, "Well, what are you going to do with it?" I said, "My daughter wants me to renovate it and give it to her, but I'm not going to do that either because it's not going to teach her responsibility. This would probably just tear it down because I've looked at it. It needs too much renovations." I said, "Probably tear it down." And he's like, "Well, just sell it to me." And I said, "I told you it's not for sale." So at that time, I still had the girls, my hounds, and Diesel, my wife's little mini shepherd. And the girls used to go fucking barreling through the woods. All of a sudden, fucking animal control's coming here hitting me with these citations every day. This guy put trail cameras up. His dogs are on my property. Now, you saw Diesel. He said, "I'm afraid to let my children out in the backyard because he's got a vicious German shepherd. We're afraid to let our own dog out because it's constantly," and they're coming with photographs and trail cam fucking pictures and at times and dates. And all of a sudden I'm looking at all these citations, like over $3,000 in fucking citations for my dogs crossing the creek. So then she ended up taking me to court. Go in front of the judge. And I tell my wife, I'm like, "You wait out here." I said, "I don't need you fucking in here cussing the judge out. Let me try and figure this shit out." So I went in there and told the judge, I brought videos of dogs playing with my grandchildren. I'm like, "This is not a vicious dog. It's not a vicious German shepherd. He's a miniature." I said, "Hell, I tried to get half my money back from the guy I bought it from." I said, "You sold me a fucking dud. This thing looks like a fucking coyote, not a shepherd." So they added everything up. The judge was like, "The fuck, man? Over $3,000 in citations in 3 months, 4 months?" And I said, "Yeah, I think it's excessive." And he started asking the animal control officer, Anna, who actually turned out to be really decent. He said, "Why did you go from $10 to $50 to $150? Because Mr. Hicks has no respect for authority, thinks he's above the law." And the judge was like, "It's a little excessive." He said, "Did anybody get hurt? Any property? Any people?" She's like, "No, but the dog's constantly in the neighbor's yard." Okay, he's a puppy. He's just fucking out with the other puppies. So the judge said, "Well, I'm going to knock it down." He said, "5:30, Sean, does that sound okay?" I said, "5:30 will work." And she said, "Your Honor, I'm the animal control officer." And he said, "Yeah, well, I'm not going to charge him over $3,000. He said, "He'll pay $530. That's fine with me." So that was on a Friday. Monday, I get a knock at the door from a constable. I'm like, "What's up? Sean Hicks?" I said, "Yeah, I'm Sean Scott Hicks, man. What's up?" "Here, you've been served." So I open it up. That following day, it was a Tuesday, she brought me before the fucking city council. And they wanted me to surrender my dogs. I said, "I'm not surrendering my fucking." Mark was with me. And he's in there fucking trying to talk like, do his. He's like, "What are you talking about? His dog." He says, "He has only one dog that bites, and it's Loki, and we're not here for Loki because Loki never leaves the property." So they gave me 30 days to put that kennel up out back. And even the guy said, "No." One of the ladies, there was a couple ladies on the board, and I was showing videos, and I'm like, "Listen, these dogs ain't vicious, man. They've been around my grandchildren since they were born." So she said, 30 days. I said, "I can try and get a kennel put up in 30 fucking days." She goes, "No, 90's fine. 90's fine." So I did that. And then I had to get Diesel neutered and all this other crap. So we got that out of the way. So I beat the animal control officer twice, and she really hated me. Like, she hated me. But Charlene and I had separated, and after the coyote attack, Loki got fucked up pretty bad. The coyote that bit me in my legs was rabid, so I caught rabies. I almost fucking died. That was nuts. In the fucking hospital. But they used to come by every day. I gave them the code to the door, animal control, and I said, "Just don't go in the fucking house with him." I left the basement door open, and I left the top floor balcony door open so he could go do his business. I said, "He's torn to shreds right now, but I'm in the hospital with the rabies treatment." So I said, "Just open the front door, look through the windows, make sure he's nowhere near the door, put a bowl of food and water in there from every day, and I'll make a donation to you guys when I get out."
And they did that for you?
Yeah, they did that for me.
That's great. I can't believe you got attacked by a rabid coyote.
Dude, fuck, man. I was fucked up. Rabies is no joke. The medical journal is doing a paper on me. I guess I'm the second person in history that's ever survived that strain of rabies.
Wow.
Yeah, it was nuts.
How long was your longest prison sentence?
5.
5 years.
Yeah.
And every time you go to prison, are you solo or do you run with people? Like, who do you associate with?
Well, I always talk with guys. Marty O'Brien, he was my handball partner. I know Ben Affleck. He makes money off the movie The Town because it was based on him.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
Is that the one with the viral clip where he's in the courtroom and he is telling the judge, you know, that movie about the guy?
Yes.
That's the guy you were in prison
He's a great
with?
handball player.
He got busted for like a traffic ticket, I guess, like a few years ago, and it went viral.
Yeah.
Wow. You were in prison with him?
Yeah, it was my handball partner.
And he was serving time. Was he finishing the sentence for The Town, or?
He was for an armored car.
That guy's a G.
Yeah, he is.
Are you still friends with him?
Yeah.
Where doesn't he live in, like, Rhode Island now or something?
He believes in Pawtucket.
That's Rhode Island.
Yeah. We have I've got an interest in a construction company out of Pawtucket, Northeast Roofing and Siding. Mm-hmm. So Fat Polly, he's actually in the reality show. That's something. That's what I'll talk to you when we're done with your show.
Yeah.
Because Mark and I were like, we got like 400 and some hours of fucking top notch video shot.
So those guys, like, who you're just talking about that you were in prison with, do they talk about their crimes in there, or do they just?
They never do.
They're just quiet and.
No, it's like, guys, like we were talking about earlier. We just we went down the other road, but guys in intake, the inmates that work or convicts that work intake, they know you're coming days before because. For everybody that doesn't know, once you get classified, it's a multi-month process, and then your property officer is going to come to your cell one day, not going to tell you when, and he's going to take all of the stuff that you're packing up, your TV, your hot pot, your fan, all your fucking shoes, all your fucking jeans, because we could wear jeans, Levi's and shit like that. So basically, you're allowed to carry a ditty bag with you, your shower bag with your cosmetics. You can't have any fucking food products. You can't have, everything has to be fucking, if it's toothpaste going with you, it better be sealed. Fucking toothbrush, it better fucking be new, still in the fucking plastic. That's what you take with you is cosmetics, some soap to wash your ass with, couple pairs of socks, shower shoes, because you never step in a fucking prison shower barefoot. You'll end up with pregnant fucking toes. Guaranteed.
Give us like a good crazy prison story that you experienced while you were there.
So I was at Susan Baranowski on the parole. They told me, the caseworker told me, and one of the guards told me, he says, you're out of here in the morning, you're going down the hill to the medium. So standing outside my cell, and it was over some boxings between two Mexican guys, two Spanish guys. And there's only one set of stairs that came up the tear and it went horseshoe around to the other side. Just typical block. And so the one guy that was in question over a debt, and I saw the other guy coming up the stairs, and I saw the bone crusher in his hand, like a fucking 14-inch fucking piece of steel. I was like, oh, it's going to get ugly. So the guy that owed the money, instead of going and running, he ran towards the guy with the fucking bone crusher. And they collided right behind me. I get pushed up against the railing and I could hear him sticking the living shit out of the guy. But they got my legs pinned because now the guy falls and my fucking knees are between the fucking railing. And I'm stuck there while this other guy's fucking stabbing the shit out of him. I put my hands up like this. I'm like, I am not involved in this because the guards come in, then the fucking goon squad comes in, the Ips come running in. Hicks, don't move. I'm not fucking moving. These guys are fucking, there's a fucking limp guy pinned against the back of my legs. I can't move. I'm not doing shit. Got blood all over me, all over my shoes, all over the tier. And they're like, you're in trouble now. I said, in trouble for what? I got stuck in traffic. Fuck out of here, man. Watch the cameras. I had no involvement in this at all. I just got pinned against the railing. I'm like, you guys, fuck, man, he might still be alive. I don't fucking know. Maybe you should get the nurses in here. And they're like, no, he's gone. I knew he was dead. He was dead weight against the back of my heels. I was like, fuck, dude. But they came in. They fucking took me to the hole. Fucking took my scrubs off me because there was blood on the scrub, blood all over my shoes, and my socks were soaked. And I'm like, you guys are really going to jam me up, fuck up my goddamn move tomorrow over this shit. And they let me sit all fucking night. They actually took me from the hole and transferred me in the morning from the hole. Yeah.
So you still got to go to the prison?
I still got to go down to the medium, yeah. But that was crazy. I really thought I was fucking lost my parole and everything over that.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just...
When did you get out for your last prison sentence?
August 17th, 2020.
2020.
Yeah.
But you had already rebuilt your life.
No, I didn't.
Oh, so you started fresh after 2020.
Yeah.
So you went from a teenager all the way to 2020 when you were in your 50s.
Yeah. I was 49 when I got out. And I had already been doing some work with Ample Entertainment. They gained access into the prison 2 days before I got out and came and shot me in my environment, is what they called it. So they filmed for 2 days in the prison. Then they filmed my release. The warden coming out, shaking my hand. The superintendent, they don't call them wardens anymore. Shaking my hand, and then we went out to dinner, and my lawyer met us there. And he said, we got you a condo, but the furniture hasn't been delivered yet, so you're going to stay in a hotel for a few days till the furniture gets set up. Gave me the keys to the condo and told me where it was, which was kind of where I wanted it, right downtown in Worcester. And then I met my wife and fell in love. And she moved into the condo with me, which was kind of cute because the bedroom set came last. And I hadn't told anybody to buy me a TV. So I called my buddy Billy, who was a car dealer at my cousin's lot, Joe. And I said, I need a fucking TV. And he said, well, I'm working late, man. I can swing by the house. I'll bring you a TV and I'll take you TV shopping this weekend. So what's funny is they delivered a dining room table, a love seat, a couch, but that was it. And Charlene moved in with me, and I told her, I have two choices right now, because even my lawyers didn't believe me. They're like, you going straight? I said, I'm going straight, man. I said, this entertainment thing, who the fuck says crime doesn't fucking pay? Looks like it's going to pan out. I said, I got you on the hook for $5,000 a day on location next week. I get $15,000 a day. He's like, what do we do? I said, you're my lawyer. You just fucking tell me what to say and not to fucking say. We go up in fucking Maine and sit in a hotel and we film every day. I don't fucking know.
Why were they interested in you? Like this guy that's been in prison his whole life. Were you shocked when people reached out to you?
I did an interview. It may have been James's interview. He said, I've had plenty of former organized crime people on here. He said, but I don't think I've ever had one really that didn't testify. He said, it kind of makes you an anomaly. So that's what I would like to think anyways.
So you think that's why the news reached out to you?
Either that or I'm fucking incredibly fucking handsome. I mean, I know what my lawyer tells me. He's like, dude, he goes, you got fair skin, red hair, fucking blue eyes.
You got the look.
Yeah, he goes, and you didn't fucking become a fucking rat. He said, he goes, everybody likes the bad guy.
So do you build, because you got into music at one point too.
I've always had a passion for music. And that was when I got out. Charlene and I, it was funny, because I had Loki. That's the first thing I did is I went to the shelter and got the most broken dog I could find. And she moved in and we were both of us fucking sleeping on a fucking little fucking couch, curled up on a couch till the bedroom set came a week later. And then that's when Patrick Turner from Top Cover Films approached me up there, and he had come down and said, I want to do a reality show on you. He said, but we can't have 5 cameras and people walking around with fucking boom mics and everything in a fucking 1-bedroom condo. I'm like, well, just sign a lease on it. He said, well, break the fucking lease. He broke every other fucking law under the sun. So we found another house, big 5-bedroom colonial over in Worcester. That was during COVID. So we had to furnish the fucking joint. It was a pain in the ass because all the furniture stores were like 8 to 12 weeks for delivery. So we spent a week or two just driving around New England saying, I'll take that if it's in stock and you can deliver it. And that's, we got to the other house and started filming for like 12, 14 months, maybe even longer than that. They would just show up with a big production trailer. And that particular house had a 2-bedroom in-law apartment downstairs. So they used one of the bedrooms turned it into fucking look like fucking NASA, for Christ's sakes. Laptops everywhere, computer fucking screens everywhere, like these monitor screens that someone would watch. My daughter stayed Asia. She's in the show. She stayed in the other bedroom, and she had her own kitchen, living room, and all that stuff down there. And we just kept filming. And I was like, okay. But I had conversations with my lawyer, and I had a conversation with Charlene before we even started. I said, listen, I only have a couple of options here in life. I said, I can't get a job anywhere. I said, I'm not going to put a tool pouch on and become a construction worker. I said, I manage construction jobs. That's no big deal. I said, I can either go back to organized crime, and then I cannot be in a relationship with you because I won't put you in danger like that. Or I can just do this entertainment shit and fucking, I'd like to follow my passion for music and start a band and all that shit too. So she said, no, that's what you want to do it. Just don't break any laws. So put a band together. Band came a little afterwards. I hooked up with Michael because no studio would let me record. They were like, because everybody would tell him, don't let that guy in your studio. He's going to end up taking it from you. So Michael Harmon out at Wachusett. Mike, this is for you because I love you, brother. He's the only person in New England that would actually produce my music. And I had no band at the time. So Michael would play all the instruments. He would play drums, guitar, bass, whatever else, man, and then produce everything for me. And I would just write the songs and sing them. And then I went through Rob Schwartz at Humag Distribution. He gave me a distribution deal with Sony The Orchard. He rolled the dice. And then I hired a band.
You got traction very quickly.
Yeah.
For music, which is kind of unheard of for that. I mean, unless you're like a big pop star or something.
Well, Rob actually is pop and hip hop. I was his first rock act ever.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to stand out as a rock artist.
Yeah, rock artist. Oh. And so I think my band, I've had a couple different lineups with guys I've hired and fired, different players. And I think I've been submitted for 3 Grammys so far in 4.5 years.
Crazy.
He hooked me up with my first acting gig in an apocalyptic fucking zombie horror movie that comes out next year. He also got me the gig to record an original song for a movie soundtrack, which that was cool because I got to take my wife to a red carpet and stuff like that. Don't laugh, man. But when they called me, they're like, Sean, if you say no, it's okay. But the director and the producer really love your music, and they want to know if you can do a heavy metal rocked out Jingle Bells for a Christmas movie for Hallmark. And I was like, what? And he's like, you can say no, dude. It's not going to reflect on you. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'll do it. So that's what we did. We did a heavy metal version of Jingle Bells.
I feel like you're walking testament that crime doesn't pay. Like, I'm sure you're making way more money now than any type of, collection or crime that you've ever done. But granted, you needed that to get to where you are now. You've kind of used that as a backbone.
It's opened a lot of doors for me.
The crime aspect.
The crime aspect, because everybody's infatuated with organized crime, which is, it baffles me because he shouldn't really look up to people for that stuff. Because, at the end of the day, man, it's a dark business. You're not climbing that ladder without hurting people. And it took me, Jesus Christ, till I got out last time to figure out there's no such thing as a victimless crime. I might do something to somebody because he's an asshole and he's involved in shit. That doesn't mean his mom or his wife or his kids or his brother or sister are in that life. So, it's a ripple effect.
Why did you decide to write the book, and were you worried it would open up, skeletons in your closet?
I decided to write the book. I actually wrote, that cabinet over there has got 16 manuscripts that I wrote while I was locked up in prison that are ready to publish. They wanted that one first. They said, we'll publish whatever else you write. We know you can write, but we want an autobiography first.
So you've always had this sense of the entertainment world in you. Why do you think you didn't use that all of these years?
Loyalty to the streets.
But why? Where does that come from? Your pop?
Pop. Yep. Yeah.
So childhood plays a huge part in the person you become.
Yeah, I would like to believe that my pop was Jewish. So I like to think that the European values, morals that he instilled in me kind of dictated who I was, as an adult. It defined me. Because, I do a lot of bad stuff. But I always justify it, saying, well, it was for the right reason.
Do or did?
Did. Past tense. But again, I was talking with Sarah Ebner or someone doing an interview for some writing shit. And she said, do you ever think, are you done with crime? Do you think you'll hurt anybody again? I said, I honestly can't say I am. If someone hurts my family, I'm just going to do what comes natural. So I guess you can say I'm in retirement, in limbo. Actually jump into it in one of the chapters in the book. I remember a situation I was in. Let's say I was in Walpole. And there was a young kid that came in at 18. And he was like, really, really loudmouth. And he's like, I'm a fucking killer. I got a natural life sentence. And I don't know. We were in the yard. It just rubbed me wrong. And I'm like, you're not a killer. You're a fucking murderer. I said, a woman that gets beaten, gets fed up with it, can murder her husband. She's a murderer. I said, someone can break into a fucking house and the guy catches the wrong end of the stick and fucking he defending his house. He's a murderer. I said, that doesn't make you a killer. I said, a killer kills and kills and kills. That's what he does. There's a difference. You should learn that. So,
how do you make amends with, things that have happened in the past? Actions?
Every day I try to make a living amends. And I don't care what anybody thinks about it. I wake up in the morning and the first thing I do is I get down on my knees and I pray to God. And I say, please don't let me hurt somebody today. That's how I start my day.
Do you ever have moments where, like, maybe you're in a public setting and, someone does something and that makes you want to react to that?
Yeah, that's caused a lot of tension between my wife and I. That's why we don't go out to eat anymore or anything like that. Because I always sit in the back watching the door. We were sitting somewhere, out to eat, and guy was with his wife. There was no kids there. They kept staring at me. I just got up in the middle of dinner. I walked over. I'm like, "The fuck you staring at me for? You looking at me like I owe you fucking money or something? Did I do something to you?" And he was like, "I'm sorry. I watched your podcast. I like it." I felt so fucking. I said, "Man, I apologize." I said, "I'll pay for you and your wife's dinner, dude. I apologize." And he's like, "No, can I get a selfie?" I was like, "Sure, whatever." So we just kind of don't even go out anymore. Yeah.
But that's not really much of a way to live, right? You can't be afraid of yourself and your actions.
I'm not, but when it causes like, you met my wife. She's a tiny little girl. We were at Stop and Shop just getting groceries, and one of the girls was like, "Oh my God, can you sign this for me?" And my wife's like, "We're trying to buy fucking groceries. Can you fucking people leave us alone?"
I can see her saying that.
Yep. She's from Charlestown. She comes from a very storied family of armored car robbers.
What is with Massachusetts and the robberies?
It's easy.
That's what it is. Like, you guys are like the capital of bank robberies.
It's easy.
It's crazy.
It's easy, man.
What do you think is the biggest, lesson you want people to take away from, you do these interviews, you do movies, TV, the book. Like, there's got to be a higher purpose for you somewhere, right?
I think that, again, this is just me, and I'm Catholic, so I'm Irish Catholic. I shouldn't be alive. I've been shot 4 times, stabbed 6 times. Once I got shot fucking right in the head, point blank. Just fucking cracked my skull. Knocked me the fuck out. And I woke up with my buddy in the back seat of an SUV fucking digging his finger in, fucking laughing, going, "Didn't even go through the skull, a hard-headed fuck." But I would like if anybody takes anything, it's not a badge of honor to go to prison, as you know. There's nothing. I never received or took away any satisfaction from hurting another human being. It was just job description. I hope that in the short period of time I've been out of prison, less than 5 years, I've managed to start a TV and film production company, form a record label, get distribution through Sony, act in movies, been on multiple sets for projects that are in post-production right now, coming out, wrote a best-selling book, working on a book one of a 5-book series for adaptation to a legal drama. Nothing to do with organized crime. It's about big pharmaceutical. And I mean, I threw a murder in the first book because what the fuck good is a story without a murder? I continually moved up. We went from a 1-bedroom, 1,100 square foot condo to a 3,000 square foot house to almost a 6,000 square foot mansion. I was actually talking with my agent. She said, Sean, you've done more in less than 5 years than some people will ever do in their lifetime because of your work ethic. So the whole time I'm battling fucking alcoholism. Because when I relapse, it's not just like, oh, I had a couple beers with my buddies. Like the liquor store delivers here. 4.5 gallons of Jack Daniels a day. And it always ends up with me being taken away in an ambulance and almost died in March. It was just a lot for my wife to handle. She said, I'm not just going to sit here. She took off and hung out with my drummer and his wife and children in LA for a couple months. She's going, he's going to drink himself to death. And I was really trying to too. Because I just was like, why do I have all this and other good guys don't? And it's just that survivor's guilt. But what I want from someone, that I don't care if you're an ex-con, you already know you're labeled for life. You're always going to have that number. You'll never forget it. It's tattooed on your soul. W86293 is my fucking Walpole number. It's always there. You're always going to have a stigma against you as you're an ex-con. Can't be trusted. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. I just hope that, and if you're battling addiction, it is a disease. It's recognized as a disease. Doesn't matter what you're poisoning, whether it's narcotics or booze. Anything is fucking possible, man, if you put your mind to it. You just have to really want it. You want to get that. For me, I've got a good psychiatrist. He tells me, recently he revealed to me that he goes to see his shrink after he talks to me, which is, I was like, that's fucked up. But yeah, anything you want in life is possible, man. It's just, you got to really put your mind to it and just achieve it. I mean, what works for me is I do like short-term goals. Like, it's like some people say, what's my 3-year goal or my 5-year goal? Nah, man, I got like fucking 2-month goals. What am I doing in this next 2 months? That's positive and moving me forward.
That's a great attitude.
Yeah.
Well, Sean, I appreciate you sitting down with me today and inviting me over. It was a pleasure talking to you and,
absolutely,
and hearing your
Thank
stories.
You
Yeah, and we'll have the link to your book in the description of this episode, and excited for when you drop the second one coming soon.
Absolutely. Remember, guys, one of the funniest stories in here, because people even my editor said, Sean, I am not supposed to laugh at some of this shit. When I first got out, I had not been to confession in 30 years. I went to go see Father Santiago over at St. Paul's in Worcester. And this was during COVID. So they had the confession outside, and there was like this fucking screen, like a curtain. And they're doing confessions outside. And now me, just getting out, I'm looking in the parking lot, and I see all these fucking people sitting in their cars. I'm like, these fucking feds, cops, what the fuck is this shit? Totally fucking blanked on it's COVID. So I just really was getting into a new relationship, and I needed to go to confession and try and, do away with some of this baggage I'd been carrying my whole life. But the priest, he was looking at me. I start patting him down, and I'm like pulling his shirt open, his frock and shit. And he's like, what are you doing? I said, are you a fed? You a real priest? Are you wired or something, man? I said, I haven't done this in 30 years, and I got a lot of shit to get off my chest. So I go, you got an ID or something? He goes, they don't give priests IDs. I'm a priest with COVID. I said, well, all these people out. He goes, they're waiting to give confession. I was like, oh, shit, okay. So we sat down and I started talking, and it must have been a half hour into it. He pulls the curtain back and he's like, I'm going to go in and get some water. I'm like, you all right, Father? He said, just a little heavy, but we'll finish. So he came back out, gave me a water. He's drinking a water and started going into another story about something. And I could hear him like clearing his throat. And I pulled the curtain back and I'm like, listen, Father, I'm not confessing to you. I'm confessing to the guy upstairs. You're just a conduit to get me there. And he was like, I understand. He said, just we'll be okay. Let's just finish. Are you almost done? Let's just finish. I say, we're done. But yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
You thought he was a Fed.
I thought he was a fucking Fed.
Did it help, the confessional, for you?
It allowed me to put some of the baggage down. Yeah. And again, you mentioned the word amends. I've gone to see some people and families from my past. One or two said it's water under the bridge. A lot more slammed the door in my face. Called me a monster. How dare I show up at their house? I tried though.
It's hard to forgive.
Yeah.
Forgiving is very hard.
Yeah.
Even, some people have small, petty things they hold grudges for, and other people, rightfully so. It's interesting.
Absolutely so.